Okay, so one thing I've found really frustrating about job hunting is the lack of an efficient system for tracking applications, right? So every day I'd like apply to like tons of positions, but there wasn't a great way to keep track of all of it. And I'm obsessed with data and tracking everything. So I tried using a Notion database, right? So I had this database where I'd put in positions that I had applied to, like what the position was, what the company was, like what status I'm at. So like, did I apply already? Is it something I want to apply to? Did I get rejected? Did I withdraw? Did I get hired? Whatever. And then like a link to the job posting, and then the date at which I applied. So this was cool. But like Notion databases, they are useful, but they don't really offer the level of flexibility that a custom application would provide, right? Notion databases, I find, are a great way to test out a concept. Like, is it useful for me to track this data? What is the most useful pieces of data that should be tracked to gain the insights that I want? And if that is useful, like if the resulting Notion database is useful, then it's like, okay, well, maybe there is a possible use case to build a more tailored solution to it, like a web app or a mobile app or something, right? Like you use Notion, it's great, but it's not flexible, and you're constrained by what Notion will allow you to do. So I'm an engineer, and I thought, well, why don't I just create a simple app to track the applications myself? It seemed like a no-brainer. However, my first version was just a replica of the Notion database, right? So I have the flexibility because I can add features, any feature that I want. Um, but I'm still like in this way, I'm still very constrained because I have to enter in all of the different pieces of data manually. And that felt unnecessary, right? If I'm going to build an app, it should be smarter than what I can do on the Notion database. Otherwise, using the Notion database is preferable because I don't have to maintain it. So I was like, okay, well, how would I improve this? And I was like, well, all of the information that is here, not all of it, but a lot of the information that is here and other information that is useful is already present on the website that I'm applying for a job, right? So let's take this for example, right? So here is a staff full stack engineer at Rippling. So like here's the job title. Here's like the locations that it's at, like the division. I have some information about the company here, information about the role, like what the responsibilities would be, et cetera, et cetera. Right? Like these are all the things. And then like another important thing is like the salary. So here's like this has a lot of information that I wasn't tracking in Notion because like actually copying all this information is a pain in the butt, and I'm not tracking it in my like V0.1 of my app. But I was like, okay, well, all the information that I want is here. So what I can do instead is that I can just take the URL for the job that I'm looking at because everything is online, and I can just scrape this and then use an LLM structured output to get what I want, right? So what do I end up with by doing that, right? Instead of ending up with something super manual like this, I could take the URL and I could end up with this. So here is a automatically scraped data from the site, right? So I have the company name, I have the company website, description, the benefits, the required skills, what they feel the ideal candidate would be. If they don't say what the ideal candidate is, I generate it based on what they've said. I have the location, the industry, which is pretty important. Like, I'd like to know what different types of companies I've applied to. Like, am I applying to a lot of stuff in entertainment? Am I applying to a lot of stuff in finance? Whatever. Like, I feel like that's a kind of interesting thing. And then I have the compensation range, which is quite useful. I have the job title, which is quite important too. Right. So this was automatically generated. So basically, what I did is that I have this script that I created here. So what I do is I pass the URL. So this was the URL, and I say type posting, and then I hit it, start scraping the website. I get the HTML, and then I transform the HTML to a schema by taking the HTML, I convert it to Markdown, and then I pass the Markdown to an LLM, and then I have the LLM create this JSON, right? So it takes the HTML that's on this page, like all the HTML stuff that's on this page, it converts it to this. So this was that page converted to Markdown. So there's all of the stuff. It also has like some other stuff that I don't care about, like terms of service. But it is kind of useful because the LLM will like look at these links and then kind of determine what the company's website is. So it is quite useful. But sometimes there's a lot of extra stuff on here that isn't so great. But that's fine. And then I end up with this, right? This is like a way, way better system. And the code itself is like not that crazy. Like there's a lot of stuff here because like I built it so that it could handle like special things with LinkedIn. Like LinkedIn, there's like two types of job posting pages. Like one is the collections view where you can see a lot of jobs on the left-hand side, and then there's the specific job details on the right-hand side. And then there's also like the job posting page where it's just like one page that only has the details and they have different queries, right? So it's like a pretty simple command line tool, right? I take a URL, I have an output, which I can pass or not pass. Like if there's a specific directory on my computer that I want it to go to. And it's pretty simple. Like I come through, I check to see whether or not it's a LinkedIn job URL, because again, there's some like special parsing there. I get the markdown from the URL. So in here, I'm using Playwright to take the HTML, to visit the website, get the HTML. It also strips out some weird stuff. Like I only want the visible elements of the page. Like I don't want to create markdown of like things that the user can't even see. And then so I get that markdown, and then I come down here, and then I have this switch case. So I have another thing where I can scrape Airbnb listings. But if it's a job posting, I come in here, just get the job posting from the HTML. So this is a transform HTML to the schema. And then once I've already scraped the site, I can choose what model I want. Like I've been testing several different models like OpenAI, Google, Gemini 1.5. 2 is good, but I feel it's a bit slower, and it's also not really necessary. Like 1.5 is perfectly fine, and it's a bit cheaper. Like if you can get the same results out of a cheaper model, then just use the cheaper model. And I was also using Ollama, but it's not here right now, right? So pretty straightforward. I get the HTML, I convert it into Markdown, I take that Markdown, I pass it to one of the LLMs. I have a schema here, which is like all of the data that you saw in the JSON. I track how long it takes, and there you go. And then I end up with that. So I think like the next thing is to take that data, now that I have like all of the stuff worked out for it, is allow the user to enter the URL here, hit the API, generate it, and then return it back, automatically create the job application. So that's like looking at the stuff that we're able to do. Like there's a lot of things where like it is worth it to just use the LLM when you're scraping a website. Like I think for every single request, it's costing me like, 0.0002 cents per request. And that saves me what, like, a couple minutes of my time, and a couple minutes of my time is probably worth like $10 or something. So it is definitely worth it.